Have you ever had one of those days? You sit down to work, you're ready to go, and then, boom. Within minutes, your mind is just somewhere else. What if I told you the secret to getting it back isn't about trying harder, but about finally understanding the user manual for your own brain? Well, let's dive into the neuroscience of what's really going on in our heads when we try to focus.
Right, let's get this out of the way first, because it's the most important thing to get. We've all been told to just push through or force ourselves to concentrate. But modern neuroscience shows us a totally different picture. Focus is not some big battle of wills. It's not about brute force at all.
So, if it's not willpower, what is it? Well, think of focus like a muscle. Seriously, it's a system in your brain that you can actually train and make stronger over time. So the real key isn't gritting your teeth and trying harder. It's about learning how to work with your brain, not against it.
Okay, so if we're going to train this system, we first need to know how it's built, right? Let's take a quick look inside your brain's control room at the three main networks that manage your attention. Think of it like a little company running in your head. First, you've got the executive network. That's the CEO telling your attention where to go. Then there's the salience network. This is your security guard, deciding what's important enough to get through the door. And then you have the default mode network, the DMN. This is the office daydreamer, the part of your brain that starts thinking about dinner plans the second you get bored. And right there, that's the secret sauce. Getting into a state of deep focus isn't just about cranking up the control networks. It's actually more about quieting down that mind-wandering DMN. When the DMN is loud, our attention is all over the place, but when it's quiet, that's when we hit that amazing state of flow.
This is exactly why multitasking is basically a myth. When you try to juggle a bunch of things at once, you're constantly poking that default mode network, pretty much inviting your brain to wander off. But when you commit to just one thing, the DMN gets quiet, and your brain's CEO can actually take charge. The big takeaway here is that single tasking isn't just a work preference. It's literally a way to train your brain.
Okay, so we've got the brain's internal hardware down. But what about the software, the fuel? Let's talk about the chemistry and energy cycles that really control how well you can concentrate.
We hear a ton about dopamine, but it's not just the pleasure chemical. For focus, think of it as the motivation chemical. And you've got to get the balance just right. Too little and you're bored, you can't be bothered. Too much, say from constant notifications, and you get anxious and jumpy. That sweet spot for peak focus is right in the middle, when a task is just interesting enough to really hook you in.
Now let's talk about the arch nemesis of focus, stress. When you're stressed out, your body floods with hormones like cortisol, and they basically slam the emergency brake on your prefrontal cortex. That's your brain's command center. It's why feeling super pressured to be productive often makes you less productive. It's not just in your head, it's a real chemical reaction.
So how do you fight back against this chemical takeover? It's actually ridiculously simple. Before you jump into a big task, just pause. Take 2 or 3 slow, deep breaths. It sounds too easy, but that's often enough to lower those stress hormones and get your prefrontal cortex back online. Remember the rule: calm first, then focus.
Here's something your brain really wants you to know. It was not built to focus for hours and hours on end. It works in natural cycles. And the science shows that our peak concentration window is somewhere between 25 and 90 minutes. Trying to push past that, you're just going to get diminishing returns, feel tired, and make more mistakes. So the smart move is to work with your brain's rhythm. Try working in focused blocks, maybe 40 to 60 minutes. Then, and this part is absolutely critical, take a real break for 5 or 10 minutes. And I mean a real break. Step away from the screen. Let your brain reset its chemistry. Then you'll be ready for another focus sprint.
All right, we've gone over the biology and the chemistry. Now let's put together your long-term training plan. This is all about creating the right habits to build up your brain's focus muscle over time.
This whole idea is possible because of this amazing thing our brains do called neuroplasticity. Basically, your brain physically changes based on what you do over and over again. The pathways you use get stronger, like a well-worn path in a forest, and the ones you don't use, they just fade away.
So think about it. Every single time you fight that urge to check your phone and you stay on task, you are literally building a more focused brain. You're paving that focus highway. And on the flip side, every time you give in to a distraction, you're paving the distraction highway. You are actively training your brain, one way or the other, with every choice you make.
So, what's the most powerful and honestly the most overlooked part of any training plan? It's recovery. And for your brain, that means sleep. When you sleep, your brain is like a night shift cleaning crew, clearing out all the gunk and restoring the very chemicals you need for attention and learning the next day.
Believe it or not, improving your focus tomorrow actually starts tonight. Simple things, like having a consistent bedtime, getting that phone out of the bedroom, and getting a little sunlight first thing in the morning. These things can have a massive impact on your sleep and, by extension, your focus.
Let's circle all the way back to our first big idea. If focus isn't about willpower, then what's more powerful? Your environment. Simple as that. Your brain is hardwired to respond to what's around you. Trying to resist a tempting distraction that's sitting right in front of you is just an exhausting battle you're probably going to lose.
So don't fight your brain, help it out. The easiest way to beat a distraction is to make it invisible. Put your phone in another room. Seriously. Tidy up your desk. Create a space where the only things you see are the things you need for your task. You want to make focus the path of least resistance.
Okay, so after all that, the networks, the chemistry, the training plan, what's the one big truth we need to walk away with? Let's tie it all together and talk about what it really takes to become indistractable.
And this right here is such an empowering idea. If you struggle to focus, it doesn't mean you're lazy or broken. It just means that our modern world has expertly trained your brain for distraction. But the best part, it can be retrained. You absolutely have the power to build new habits and literally rewire your brain for deep, meaningful concentration.
And that really brings us to the final question. And this one isn't for me to answer, it's for you. Knowing that your brain will become good at whatever you do repeatedly, the choice is yours. Are you going to keep training it for distraction? Or are you going to start, today, training it for focus?